Before rivers found their voices and before mortals built their first fires, the heavens were wide and empty, save for the quiet weaving of a solitary goddess. She was known only as the Moon Weaver. She sat before a loom larger than mountains, strung with silver threads that stretched from one horizon to the other. Her hands moved without hurry, yet with unfailing grace, as if guided by music too deep for ears to hear. Every thread shimmered faintly, spun from dew that lingered on the first grasses and from sighs that rose from the sleeping earth. The Moon Weaver was silent, yet her silence was not emptiness. Each movement of her shuttle, each tightening of a thread, was a wordless hymn. From these threads she wove the shifting face of the moon, a lantern that waxed and waned across the night sky. But this was not her only task. The moon was but a veil, her true art was hidden beneath it. Into her loom, she stitched dreams. Some were soft and bright, carrying laughter and warmth. Others were heavy and dark, carrying questions, fears, and truths unspoken. Each dream, whether gentle or shadowed, she placed with care, knowing it would find its way into the hearts of mortals when they laid their heads to rest. The stars gathered close, shimmering like curious children. "Your work is endless," said a golden star, its light shaped like a crown. "Do you never tire?" The Moon Weaver smiled faintly, though her lips did not move. Her hands continued their patient rhythm. She did not need words. Her answer was in the weave itself. No thread is wasted, no dream too small. And so she wove, night after night, filling the heavens with silver cloth and dreams yet unspoken, her loom humming like the breath of eternity. One night, as she bent over her work, a new thread appeared upon the loom. It was unlike any she had ever spun. It pulsed with warmth and movement, as if it carried a heartbeat of its own. Curious, she leaned close. From below, on the young earth, a mortal child stirred in slumber. He was the first dreamer, though no one yet knew such a thing was possible. His breath rose like mist, and with it, the thread shimmered into the weaver's loom. The stars gasped. A mortal's breath? A dream from the earth itself? The weaver touched the thread, feeling its weight. It was fragile, trembling with uncertainty, yet it burned with longing, the child's heart wishing for comfort, for a hand to guard him through the night. She wove the thread gently into the silver cloth. As she did, the child's sleep deepened, and his face softened with peace. For the first time, a mortal's dream had found its place in the tapestry of night. The wind drifted by, curious. "What have you done, weaver?" "The boy's breath has reached you. His dream has become part of your sky." The weaver inclined her head. Her shuttle moved once more, steady and sure. From that night onward, mortal dreams would rise into her loom, to be spun into patterns of stars and moonlight. And so began the secret bond between heaven and earth, between dreamer and dream. The next night, the weaver returned to her loom, but something had changed. Her silver threads trembled faintly, as though the cloth itself was whispering. She leaned close and heard it, voices, tiny, tender murmurs, rising from the patterns. They were the echoes of mortal dreams. The child had dreamed again, and now another mortal's breath rose to join his. From a small village nestled in the folds of the earth, a woman stirred in sleep. Her dream was different, woven of sorrow, a longing for a husband lost to the rivers. The thread that carried her sorrow was darker, almost like smoke, yet no less vital. The weaver guided it into the cloth, and when she did, the stars around her shifted uneasily. "Why weave the dark threads?" asked the golden-crowned star, Celian. "They will stain the heavens." The weaver paused, her eyes steady on the trembling star. She did not answer with words but continued her work. Light and shadow, laughter and sorrow, both were needed, both were true. The stars murmured among themselves. Some admired her patience, while others fretted. But the weaver's shuttle never faltered. She knew that without the dark, the bright would lose its meaning. Without sorrow, dreams of joy would have no wings to rise. As she worked, the wind drifted through the loom, carrying the voices of mortals. The weaver lifted her gaze to him. "You hear them too, don't you?" he asked softly. She inclined her head. Then perhaps, the wind mused, mortals are not so small as we thought. Their dreams have weight enough to reach the heavens. The weaver's fingers pressed lightly to the cloth, as if in blessing. The stars quieted, their doubts trailing into silence. A new age was beginning, an age where dreams would bind sky and earth together. Not all threads were gentle. One night, the weaver felt a thread snap into her loom so violently it nearly cut her hand. It burned hot, scarlet and wild, and it crackled with fury. She steadied it carefully, examining its nature. This dream came from a warrior who lay restless beside his spear. In his heart, fire burned, anger at enemies unseen, at wrongs unforgotten. His dream blazed so fiercely that sparks leapt from the thread itself. The stars recoiled. "Do not weave that one," cried Celian, his crown shining with alarm. "It will scorch the sky." But the weaver only breathed slowly, her eyes soft. Even fire was part of the tapestry. To reject it would be to deny the warrior's truth. She placed the scarlet thread between softer silvers, wrapping it in calm until its blaze dimmed into a glowing ember. When she did, the warrior's sleep grew steady. His hand slipped from his weapon, and for the first time in many nights, he found rest. The wind watched in awe. "You turn flame into light," he whispered. The weaver did not claim the power as her own. She only guided the thread where it belonged, giving it harmony with the others. From then on, not only gentle dreams but fierce ones, sorrowful ones, and even shadows of fear found their way into the loom. And always, the weaver placed them with care, making room for each. The stars, though still uncertain, began to watch more closely, their brightness reflecting wonder instead of doubt. The cloth of the heavens was no longer only silver, it shimmered with the whole spectrum of mortal dreams. As more nights passed, the weaver's loom filled with threads of mortal dreams. What had once been a fabric of pure silver now shimmered with endless hues, gold for laughter, blue for longing, green for hope, and deep crimson for anger. It was unlike anything the heavens had seen before. The stars, who had long believed themselves the sole keepers of the sky, began to whisper among themselves. "These mortals, who live for but a breath, now leave marks upon eternity," muttered one, sharp as a blade. "They are fragile sparks," said another. "Why should their voices rise so high?" Celian, the star with the golden crown, shone brighter than the rest. "If this continues, mortals will shape the heavens more than we do. What place will remain for us?" The murmurs grew sharper each night. Some stars turned their light away, refusing to gaze upon the weaver's work. Others drifted closer, staring with envy at the shimmering cloth, wishing their own light could shine so deeply. The weaver continued her task in silence. But the wind, who swirled softly between stars, felt the growing discord. "Be gentle," he whispered to them. "The weaver does not favor mortals over you. She binds you together. Your light mingles with their dreams. Yet jealousy, once born, is not so easily quieted." The stars, who had once sung together in harmony, began to sound discordant notes, sharp, restless tones that made the night tremble. The weaver paused her shuttle for the first time. Her hands hovered above the loom. For the cloth to remain whole, she would need to weave not only mortal dreams, but the doubts and longings of the stars themselves. And so she listened to their jealousy, their yearning, and their fear of being forgotten. And she knew that their voices, too, must be given a place. That night, as the weaver bent over her loom, she felt a new kind of thread slide into her hands. It was neither spun from dew nor drawn from mortal breath. It came from above, from the stars themselves. The first thread glowed like liquid fire, bright yet trembling. It came from Celian, the golden-crowned star. His jealousy was fierce, but beneath it lay longing, an ache to matter, to be remembered in the same way as mortals. The weaver touched the thread gently. "Even stars can dream," murmured the wind beside her. She guided the thread into the cloth, weaving it alongside the mortal dreams. The fabric shimmered differently now, brighter, bolder. The mortal dreams gained new brilliance from the starlight, while the stars' light grew warmer when bound with mortal breath. One by one, other stars began to release their own threads, silver strands of pride, blue filaments of loneliness, scarlet streaks of desire. The weaver wove them all, carefully balancing light with shadow, strength with fragility. As she worked, a strange harmony returned to the heavens. The jealous murmurs quieted. The stars saw their light reflected in mortal dreams, and mortal dreams now carried the fire of the stars. Celian drifted closer, his crown shining softly. "Weaver, is this what you intended all along? That sky and earth should share the same cloth?" The weaver's eyes lifted, calm and steady. She did not answer, but her hands spoke for her. Every movement of her shuttle whispered, "Nothing is whole unless all are woven together." The wind sighed contentedly, brushing through the silver loom. For the first time in many nights, the sky was quiet, not with silence, but with balance. The weaver's loom had grown vast, stretching across the heavens like a sea of silver and fire. Mortal dreams mingled with starlight, and the tapestry glowed with a beauty unseen in any age. Yet, not every dream wished to be woven. One night, as she gathered threads from the earth, she felt something different, an absence, a hollow where a dream should have been. She searched the sleeping villages below, but in one house, a man turned in restless sleep with no thread rising from him at all. Instead of a strand of light or color, a dark mist seeped upward, shapeless, heavy, resisting her loom. The weaver reached out to guide it, but the mist coiled away, twisting like smoke fleeing a hand. The stars recoiled in alarm. "What is that?" cried one. The wind's voice was low, uneasy. "A dream that refuses to be bound. An unwoven shadow." More shadows began to appear as nights passed. Some mortals dreamed of nothing, their rest blank and hollow. Others carried nightmares so heavy they broke free of the loom, falling back to earth like poisoned rain. The weaver frowned for the first time. Her hands tightened around her shuttle. She had always believed every dream had a place, but these shadows resisted her art, clawing against the silver threads as though to escape. Celian glared into the darkness. "Cast them out. They are dangerous." But the weaver only studied the swirling mists, her eyes calm but searching. She knew that even shadows were born of something: fear, pain, despair. To reject them outright would leave the cloth incomplete. Yet to weave them carelessly might unravel all she had made. For the first time, the weaver faced a task she did not yet know how to finish. The shadows did not remain quiet. One evening, as the weaver bent to her loom, the sky darkened unnaturally. Clouds without rain gathered, heavy and swirling, blocking even the stars. The wind howled with confusion. "These are not my doing," he cried. From the clouds, the unwoven shadows poured forth. They lashed against the loom like whips, tearing at the silver threads. Dreams trembled in their places, some unraveling into loose strands. Mortals tossed in their sleep, crying out as if trapped in storms of the mind. The stars panicked, their light flickering. "They will unmake the heavens," one shrieked. Celian blazed angrily. "Weaver, cut them away before all is lost." But the weaver did not lift her scissors. Instead, she rose from her seat for the first time. Her figure glowed faintly, robes flowing like rivers of moonlight. She stepped toward the writhing shadows, her hands open, unarmed. The wind circled her in alarm. "You cannot touch them, they are poison." Yet when the weaver touched the nearest shadow, it shivered. For a moment, its shapelessness stilled, and within it she saw something, a broken thread, torn too early, belonging to a mortal whose life had ended in pain. Her gaze softened. She whispered, though no sound passed her lips, "You are not forgotten. You too belong." Carefully, she drew the broken fragment into her loom. The shadow resisted at first, writhing like a wild thing. But slowly, beneath her steady touch, it settled into the cloth. Its darkness wove between threads of light, not destroying them, but deepening their glow. The storm calmed. The shadows, though still restless, circled her loom, no longer tearing but waiting, as though asking where they belonged. The stars fell silent. Celian bowed his head. Even he could not deny the truth. The weaver had found a place for even the darkest dream. And so, the heavens gained a new depth. Light not only brightened but shadowed, carrying sorrow as well as hope. The tapestry was no longer only beautiful, it was true. In the quiet valley where the child had once dreamed of light, whispers began to stir among the villagers. They did not know why, but their nights felt different. Some awoke refreshed, as if wrapped in warmth they could not explain. Others found courage rising in them after fearful dreams, as though unseen hands had steadied their sleep. One evening, an elder sat by the fire, her eyes clouded with age. "In my youth," she murmured, "I dreamed of a silver cloth that covered the sky. A woman wove it, though she never spoke. I think she watches us." The villagers leaned closer, listening. The child, the same who had once dreamed of light in darkness, spoke softly. "She is the one who gathers our dreams. I felt her once. Like a hand guiding me." "What is her name?" someone asked. The elder closed her eyes. The firelight glowed on her wrinkled face. "We cannot know her true name. But perhaps we may call her what she is, the weaver of the moon, for her cloth shines as silver as its glow." And so, for the first time, mortals gave her a name, Moon Weaver. The wind carried their words upward, whispering them into the heavens. The weaver paused at her loom as the sound reached her ears. She lifted her head, her eyes shimmering faintly. She had never asked for a name, yet hearing it, she felt something stir, something soft and ancient. The stars looked on in wonder. "Mortals have named you," Celian said quietly. "Perhaps this is how they honor you." The weaver bent her head again, but the faintest smile touched her lips as she set her shuttle moving once more. The cloth glowed brighter, as though acknowledging the bond that now stretched between her and those who dreamed. That same night, the weaver noticed something new. As she drew threads of mortal dreams into her loom, some of them trembled differently, not passive, not drifting, but reaching upward as though in answer to her touch. She took one such thread, pale green and quivering. It came from a farmer who dreamed of his field flourishing after a long drought. But as she wove it into her cloth, she felt it pulse, sending warmth back into her hand. She blinked in quiet surprise. Never before had a mortal dream touched her in return. The wind felt it too. "They are becoming aware," he murmured. "Somewhere deep within, they feel your presence in their sleep." The weaver did not speak, but her hands moved carefully, weaving the farmer's dream until it shone like new leaves after rain. Below, when the farmer awoke, he felt hope so strong it guided his steps to dig a new well. And within days, he struck water. Word spread quickly in the village. Dreams had begun to give guidance, courage, even healing. The people began leaving offerings of polished stones and bowls of milk beneath the moon, whispering thanks to the unseen weaver. The stars watched with unease. "Mortals pray to her now," one muttered. Celian, though still proud, shook his crown slowly. "Perhaps it is not worship, but gratitude. And is that not the truest form of light?" The weaver continued her work, silent as always, though her loom thrummed with a deeper resonance. For the first time, she was not only shaping dreams, she was answering them. The bond between heaven and earth grew tighter with each passing night. Mortals, though they did not see her, began to feel her presence as surely as they felt the moonlight on their faces. The moon weaver was no longer just a mystery in the stars. She was becoming a guardian of dreams. The moon weaver's loom had grown vast, glowing with harmony. Mortal dreams shimmered beside threads of starlight, and even shadows had found their place in the cloth. The night seemed balanced at last. But balance is always fragile. In the same valley where mortals first whispered her name, a young man named Dorian dreamed with a fire that burned too brightly. He was restless by nature, never content with fields or hearth, always looking at the horizon as though it mocked him. One night, as he lay beneath the moon, his heart swelled with longing. Why should mortals be bound to such small lives, he whispered. If the weaver gathers our dreams, then let her gather mine, and let it be so vast that it shapes the very heavens. And he dreamed. His dream rose like a storm, threads of gold and scarlet entwined, blazing with ambition. It did not drift gently to the weaver's loom but surged upward like fire, fierce and demanding. The loom trembled when the thread touched it. The stars flared in alarm. This dream is too great, cried one. It will tear the cloth apart. Celian's crown blazed. Weaver, you must not weave it. Cut it away before it unravels everything. The wind whirled uneasily. It is powerful, yes, but it is also true. Can you deny it? The weaver touched the golden thread, and it burned her hand. For the first time, she hesitated. She could see within it the mortal's yearning, not for wealth or comfort, but for greatness beyond the bounds of human life. A dream that sought to rival the stars themselves. She did not cut it. Not yet. Instead, she held it in her hands, considering. To weave it might endanger the balance of all she had made. To cast it aside might dishonor the truth of dreaming. The loom waited. The stars waited. The shadows, too, stirred restlessly at the edges, sensing the disruption. And the weaver knew that one dream could change everything. The next night, the golden thread of Dorian's dream grew stronger. Each time he slept, it rose brighter and bolder, refusing to fade. The weaver wove the smaller dreams around it, trying to keep the cloth steady, but the golden strand resisted, pulling against every weave, demanding more space. The stars muttered darkly. If one mortal dares such a dream, others will follow. Soon, they will try to command the heavens. Celian's voice cut sharp. Weaver, you must decide. Will you favor mortals even when they endanger us all? The wind brushed her shoulder gently. Perhaps his dream is only dangerous because it is alone. Dreams grow wild when they have no companions. The weaver considered this. She bent over the golden thread once more, her hands steady though her eyes glimmered with unease. She wove it, carefully, but instead of letting it stretch unchecked, she surrounded it with threads of shadow and threads of starlight. The cloth shuddered. The golden strand blazed, resisting its bindings. But when wrapped in sorrow, patience, and the steady glow of the stars, its fire dimmed to something steadier, less consuming. Below, Dorian awoke from his dream restless and confused. He had dreamed of greatness, yes, but also of loss, of burden, of the cost of ambition. He felt both lifted and weighed down, as though the weaver had answered him with caution. In the village, whispers began. Dorian dreams strangely. His nights leave him shaken, but also wise. Perhaps the weaver shows him more than others. The stars quieted, though uneasily. The cloth still held, though its thread stretched taut. Celian watched the golden strand with narrowed eyes. One day, he murmured, such a dream may unravel all. The weaver did not look up. Her shuttle moved with calm determination, but deep inside, she knew Celian's words carried truth. Dreams could shape the heavens. But could the heavens bear their weight? Dorian was unlike the others of his valley. While neighbors worked fields or tended children, he spent nights gazing at the sky, chasing the feeling his dreams left him. He no longer feared sleep, he craved it, for within dreams he touched greatness. Yet his waking hours became restless. He wandered to the hills, muttering to himself. She hears me. She must hear me. If she can weave dreams, then surely she can weave destiny itself. The villagers watched with unease. Once, Dorian had been admired for his quick mind and boldness. Now they whispered that he was haunted, marked by the moon weaver. Children followed him at a distance, calling him Star Dreamer, half in awe, half in mockery. One evening, when the moon was high, Dorian stood on the cliffs beyond the valley. He stretched his arms upward. Weaver, he cried. If you are there, if you shape my dreams, then answer me. I will not be silent, nor content with a small life. Show me your face. The wind shifted uneasily. His words rose, carried on air and starlight, reaching the loom above. The weaver paused, her hand trembling faintly. She had never been called upon so directly. Mortals whispered prayers, yes, but Dorian's cry was not prayer. It was demand. The stars bristled. See how mortals grow bold? Already one dares to summon you. Celian's light sharpened. If she answers him, others will rise in arrogance. If she ignores him, perhaps he will cease. The wind, softer, asked, but what if his yearning has purpose? Even ambition may carry truth. The weaver's hands lingered on her shuttle, silent. For the first time since she had taken up the loom, she felt torn, not by threads, but by choice. That night, the weaver touched Dorian's dream again. His thread surged upward, bold and burning, as though fueled by his waking cry. She tried to weave it carefully among others, but it refused to quiet. His longing struck against her loom like a drumbeat. See me. See me. See me. At last, the weaver drew the thread aside, not weaving it, not cutting it, but letting it rest in her hand. She breathed upon it, a whisper of moonlight, and released it back toward the mortal. In his sleep, Dorian found himself standing by a still pool beneath a silver sky. Mist curled at the edges, and in the water's surface, he saw not his own reflection, but a faint figure, robed in light, faceless yet present. His breath caught. Weaver? The figure did not speak, yet the air hummed with silence so deep it felt like an answer. The pool rippled. A silver thread stretched toward him, brushing against his hand. It was not a gift nor a promise, only a glimpse, a reminder that she was real. Dorian awoke gasping, his heart aflame. He staggered to the cliffs again, staring at the moon. I saw her. I saw her. She heard me. The villagers whispered in fear and wonder. Some said he was blessed, others cursed. But Dorian no longer cared for their doubts. His dream had reached beyond sleep. He would not stop until he found a way to stand before her again. Above, the weaver sat at her loom, her hands folded. She had only meant to quiet his fire, to offer a touch of calm. Yet she had given him a glimpse, and glimpses are seeds. Seeds that grow. The cloth of dreams thrummed with tension, as if sensing that this single mortal's yearning might ripple through the whole tapestry. The wind sighed. You have touched him. Now his path is changed forever. The weaver lowered her gaze. She knew it was true. The valley could no longer ignore Dorian. His nights were restless, his days consumed by wandering hills and cliffs, always searching the sky. When villagers asked him to help with harvest or carry water, he only shook his head. I have seen her, he said often, eyes blazing. The weaver of the moon. She touched my dream. She is real. Whitel fields when I have touched the hand of heaven. Some scoffed, yet others listened. Farmers weary of drought, mothers burdened by grief, youths hungry for more than simple lives, they leaned closer to his words. If the weaver touched you, they asked, can she touch us as well? Dorian spread his arms. Do not whisper thanks in the dark as children do. Cry out. Call to her as I did. She hears. She answers. Offerings beneath the moon multiplied. Stones, flowers, bowls of milk. Some prayed in trembling reverence, others demanded boldly, echoing Dorian's defiance. The valley filled with murmurs. The weaver was no longer a hidden comfort of sleep, but a power to be summoned. Above, the stars grew restless. See what he has begun, they warned. Mortals grow louder. They will tear the balance apart. Celian's crown flared. It is as I said. If one mortal dares, many will follow. Weaver, you must end this. The wind drifted uncertainly. But is it not in their nature to yearn? They are fragile, yet their voices are strong. Perhaps we must listen, even if it stirs danger. The weaver's hands stilled on her loom. Threads pulsed uneasily beneath her fingers, reflecting mortal longing. The cloth no longer hummed with harmony, it quivered like a bowstring, stretched by forces from both heaven and earth. She wondered, for the first time, if the loom itself could break. That night, Dorian dreamed again of the silver pool. This time, the faceless figure lingered longer, the thread stretching toward him once more. "Why do you not speak?" he demanded, his voice echoing over still waters. "You have shown yourself to me, why hide behind silence? Are we not worthy of more?" The figure rippled, the thread trembling as though in warning. But Dorian only grasped at it, desperate to hold. The pool shattered like glass. He awoke with a cry, sweat on his brow, his chest aching as if from loss. He staggered into the village square, his voice breaking. "She hides from us. She tests us. But I will not stop until she gives me her truth." More and more villagers gathered around him. Some trembled with fear, others with hope. An elder shook her head. "Be careful, Dorian. Dreams are gifts, not chains to drag down the heavens." But Dorian's fire burned too brightly. "If the weaver gathers our dreams, then we, too, may shape her. We are not as small as the stars believe." Above, the constellations flared with alarm. "Listen to him. He dares to claim mortals can shape the weaver herself." Celian rose in brilliance, his voice hard as steel. "Enough. This cannot continue. If the weaver will not cut his thread, then I will. I will tear his dream from the cloth before it ruins us all." The wind circled anxiously. "Celian, wait, do not act in haste. If you strike him down, you strike at the bond between heaven and earth. What then will remain?" But Celian's crown blazed with resolve. "Better no bond than a bond that enslaves us to mortal arrogance." The weaver lowered her gaze, her shuttle frozen in her hand. She could feel Dorian's golden thread trembling violently, tugging at the fabric of the night. To sever it might restore balance. To weave it might destroy it. The heavens waited for her choice. Celian had watched long enough. His patience, stretched thin across countless nights, finally broke. Mortals were growing bolder with each dream, and Dorian's golden thread pulled at the fabric like a flame-eating cloth. If the weaver would not cut it, he would. On a night of clear skies, when the moon shone high and the village slept, Celian's constellation blazed brighter than all others. His crown burned with fire as he bent his light downward. Stars gasped as his radiance streaked across the heavens like a spear of silver flame. He descended. Dorian, restless as ever, lay awake on the cliffs when the light struck. The ground trembled beneath him, and suddenly he stood not in silence but in the presence of a towering figure. Celian's crown gleamed, his form forged of light and stars. The mortal fell to his knees, half blinded. "A god." Celian's voice rang like thunder. "Mortal, you reach too high. Your dream threatens the balance of night. I come to end it." Dorian's chest heaved. Fear clawed at him, yet ambition flared brighter. "If my dream is strong enough to reach you, then it is no mere thread, it is destiny. You will not silence me." Celian's hand, bright as flame, reached for him. The starlight seared the earth, curling grass into ash. "I will burn away your defiance. Better one mortal undone than the whole cloth unraveled." The sky quivered, the loom itself shaking. Above, the weaver froze, her shuttle slipping from her grasp. She felt Celian's light tearing at Dorian's dream, threatening to unravel it by force. If he succeeded, the golden thread would vanish forever. The loom might steady, but at what cost? The wind's voice rose in haste. "Weaver, do not let him. Mortals must not be punished for daring to dream." The weaver's heart wavered. Her hands hovered above the trembling golden thread. To save Dorian would mean defying Celian openly, perhaps shattering trust with the stars. Yet to abandon him would be to betray the very truth she had promised to weave. For the first time, her choice was not about balance. It was about allegiance. The golden thread screamed beneath Celian's grip, unraveling in fire. Dorian cried out, clutching his chest as if his very soul were being torn apart. His eyes locked on the sky, desperate, pleading. Weaver. If you are real, save me. The weaver's hands clenched. She could not stay still. With a breath like a sigh of eternity, she reached down through her loom. Threads of silver moonlight spilled from her fingers, coiling around the golden strand, shielding it from Celian's fire. Her presence, soft yet unyielding, filled the night. Celian's crown flared in shock. You protect him? The weaver's voice, usually no more than a whisper, rang clear across the valley. Dreams are not to be silenced, Celian. Not even those that burn too bright. If mortals cannot dream greatly, then the cloth is nothing but ash. The stars gasped. Never before had she spoken so directly. Dorian collapsed to his knees, trembling, bathed in silver light. The pain faded, replaced by awe. She chose. She chose me. Celian's form stiffened, anger searing in his crown. You defy me for him? For one reckless mortal? He is not worthy of your protection. But the weaver only wove faster, her threads binding the golden strand securely into the cloth. It trembled violently, still too bold, still too bright, but it held. Celian's fury lit the sky. So be it. If you would defend mortals against the stars, then know this, the heavens will not forget. One day, their fire will demand reckoning. With that, he ascended in a blaze, leaving the valley scorched where his light had struck. The villagers awoke to see Dorian bathed in silver glow, unharmed amidst the ruin. They fell to their knees, murmuring, "He is chosen. The weaver has blessed him." Above, the loom thrummed with strain. The cloth still held, but every thread now quivered beneath the weight of defiance and consequence. The weaver closed her eyes. She had chosen. And in choosing, she had set the heavens against her. After the night Celian struck and the weaver protected Dorian, the valley could no longer see him as an ordinary mortal. People whispered that he had been touched by the heavens, that the moon weaver herself had chosen him. Mothers brought children to see him, farmers bowed in reverence, even elders sought his counsel. I do not command the weaver, Dorian said when they asked. I only see her work, as you do in your dreams. She shapes the night, but she listens to those who dare to dream. His words carried weight. Mortals began to call him the prophet of moonlight, though Dorian himself shied from the title. Yet his visions grew sharper, guided by the weaver's threads. He dreamed of harvests restored, of lost travelers finding their way, of villages healed. And always, the golden thread surged upward, weaving itself subtly into the loom above. The stars watched with unease. He is no mere mortal, Celian said. He gathers others, spreads defiance. This cloth will break under him. Some constellations murmured quietly, sympathizing with him, but most flared in disapproval. The balance had shifted. The wind drifted beside the weaver. He does not seek to dominate the heavens, it said. Yet his influence grows. Mortals always wish for more, and now one dares to reach beyond sleep itself. The weaver only nodded. She had known this day would come, yet she still did not regret protecting him. A seed planted in truth cannot be undone without destroying the garden. Celian did not forget. He gathered a council of the brightest and oldest stars, their light bristling with cold brilliance. We cannot allow this mortal's fire to spread unchecked, he said. If he sways the hearts of mortals, the moon weaver will favor them over us entirely. We must act. Some stars shivered at the thought of defying the weaver. She wields the loom, whispered a silver thread of light. We cannot strike without unraveling ourselves. Celian's crown flared. Then we must be subtle. We do not strike the weaver directly, not yet. Instead, we will test the mortal. Let him chase his visions, see if his dreams can endure the trials of night, shadow, and temptation. If he fails, we shall reclaim the balance. Above the loom, the weaver felt the tension ripple through the threads. Shadows stirred restlessly at the edges, sensing the brewing storm. The golden strand trembled, bright and eager, yet wary. The wind whispered through the heavens. The stars plot. Their patience grows thin. The mortal may yet be caught between his own ambition and the fury of the skies. The weaver's hands hovered above the shuttle. She could not stop what was coming, but she could guide it. Every thread she wove now was a shield, a lesson, a tether to keep Dorian from burning too brightly, and yet she knew some fire must be free. The loom pulsed, alive with potential and peril. One mortal's ambition had become the thread upon which the fate of dreams, stars, and the moon weaver herself now depended. The night was unusually still. The moon hung low, silver light stretching across the valley like a river of glass. Dorian slept, his chest rising with the rhythm of dreams. Yet above, the stars whispered in discord, and Celian's crown glimmered with intent. From the far reaches of the sky, a shadow descended. It was no mere darkness, but a living absence, shifting, hungry, and cold. Mortals' dreams that had once been bright flickered uneasily. The shadow sought Dorian's golden thread, drawn to his audacious yearning. He felt it first as a chill in his sleep. The silver pool appeared again, but the faceless weaver now trembled at the edges, her light dimmed. The shadow surged, and Dorian's dream trembled violently in response. He called out, half dreaming, half awake, "Weaver! Protect me! Do not let them!" But the shadow struck, its tendrils curling around his golden thread, threatening to unravel it. Visions of ruin flashed before his eyes. Villages collapsing, crops wilting, neighbors falling into endless sleep. His own heart beat in terror. Above, the weaver's hands moved instantly, drawing silver and starlight around the golden thread. "Hold fast," she whispered to herself. The wind screamed through the heavens. "This is no mere dream. Celian has sent a trial. Mortal and weaver alike, you must endure." The stars watched silently, their brilliance sharpened in anticipation. The loom vibrated under the strain. Every thread seemed to shiver, awaiting the outcome of a battle neither fully seen nor fully understood. Dorian's soul seemed to tremble against the shadows. He had long sought greatness, yet never imagined the cost. Yet, even in fear, he clutched the golden thread tighter, and the weaver's presence pulsed through him like warmth in ice. The shadow pressed harder. It whispered doubts, twisting them into shapes that clawed at Dorian's mind. "You are not worthy. Your ambition is folly. The stars will unmake you." He shivered but did not release his grip. I am not afraid," he shouted, though his voice wavered. "I will endure. I will not be broken." The weaver's silver threads wrapped around him, guiding the golden thread gently, holding it firm against the shadow's assault. Light and dark collided above, sending pulses of energy through the loom. Mortals dreamed in scattered disarray, some touched by the shadow, yet held by the weaver's subtle hand. Celian watched from the heavens, crown blazing. Will he falter? Will mortal fire be extinguished? Dorian felt the shadow twist tighter, but he discovered something strange. The shadow was not only an enemy, it was a mirror. It reflected his fears, his impatience, his doubts about whether he deserved the weaver's attention. "I am worthy," he whispered, voice steadying. "I am not perfect, but I will stand. I will dream, and I will endure." The weaver's light pulsed brighter, a heartbeat of silver. The shadow recoiled, surprised by the mortal's steadfastness. The golden thread glowed fiercely, woven with courage, fear, hope, and truth. The wind swirled triumphantly. "He holds fast. The mortal's fire is tempered, yet it burns all the brighter." The shadow twisted once more, then withdrew, dissolving into the edges of the night. The loom shivered, but the threads held. Dorian awoke, drenched in sweat, yet filled with a strange exhilaration. Above, the weaver watched quietly. She had guided him through the first trial of the stars. And though the danger had passed, she knew the path ahead would grow even more perilous. After the shadow's retreat, Dorian sat alone on the cliff, staring at the night sky. The moon glimmered softly, and for the first time, he felt its gentle pull, not just in awe, but as a presence, warm and patient. Who are you really?" he whispered into the night, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and wonder. From the silver glow above, the weaver's presence shimmered faintly. She did not speak, yet Dorian felt her answer in the pulse of his dreams. "I am the keeper, the guide, the loom itself. I am your dream and your shelter." He closed his eyes and reached inward, feeling the golden thread that connected him to her. The thread no longer burned or quivered with reckless ambition. It vibrated in harmony with the silver strands of the loom, as though teaching him balance. The wind drifted past, brushing against him like a gentle breath. "He begins to understand," it murmured. "The thread is not his alone. It is woven into something far greater. He can shape it only by learning the weave itself." Dorian shivered. The golden thread stretched upward, entwining with starlight and shadow alike. He realized that he could feel not only his dreams, but those of others, the farmer dreaming of rain, the child dreaming of laughter, the elder dreaming of a life well lived. Everything is connected," he whispered. "The weaver, the stars, the mortals, even the shadows." Above, the moon weaver's loom pulsed in affirmation. She had allowed him to glimpse not just the power of dreaming, but the responsibility it carried. And now, he would learn that strength was measured not by the brilliance of fire, but by its harmony with all threads. That night, Dorian returned to sleep beneath the silver moon, and the dream came again, the pool, calm and still. The faceless weaver appeared, yet this time she extended her hands, letting the golden thread weave lightly through his fingers. "You are learning," her presence whispered, not in words, but in understanding. The thread carried guidance, patience, humility, and the courage to bear the weight of greatness. Dorian felt the loom beneath him as if he had stepped inside it. Threads of silver, gold, crimson, and shadow wound around him, each vibrating with a life of its own. When he tugged one, another adjusted. When he released, all moved in harmony. He understood for the first time that dreaming was not an act of taking, but of weaving. Every hope, fear, and longing mattered, not only for him, but for the entire fabric of night. The stars whispered in cautious approval. Even Celian, watching from above, flickered with reluctant respect. "You must guide," the wind murmured. "Not command. You must weave, not unravel. The mortal hand can shape, but the weaver remains." Dorian's heart swelled with a calm fire. He was no longer simply reaching for greatness. He was part of the loom, part of the rhythm that carried dreams across the world. The shadows had not disappeared, but they too moved with purpose, teaching balance alongside courage. When he awoke in the mortal world, the first light of dawn brushing the cliffs, he felt the threads within him still pulsing softly, reminding him that the night, the stars, and the weaver were always with him. He was changed. He had glimpsed the loom. And the moon weaver had shown him that even the smallest mortal could touch eternity if they wove their life with care and courage. After many nights of learning from the moon weaver, Dorian awoke with a sense of purpose unlike any before. His golden thread pulsed gently in the loom, still vibrant, yet tempered with patience. He returned to the village, walking through streets dim with early morning fog. People paused to watch him, sensing that something in him had changed. His eyes no longer burned with reckless fire but glimmered with calm, steady light. "I have dreamed," he told them, "and I have seen the weaver's loom. Every hope, every fear, every longing we carry is a thread in her tapestry. If we dream with care, we can strengthen the cloth of night." Some villagers were skeptical, yet the children leaned forward, eager for his words. The farmers whispered among themselves, realizing that their own dreams, of rain, of harvest, of safe journeys, could matter beyond their fields. He demonstrated small acts. A whispered hope for the moon's blessing over crops, a careful thought of courage for a fearful child, a soft wish of healing for the sick. Each time, Dorian felt the threads in his own heart hum in response, a subtle echo of the weaver's loom above. Even the shadows that lingered at the edges of dreams began to shift. They no longer felt like threats but like teachers, guiding the mortals' hearts toward balance. The wind drifted past, soft and approving. He learns not just to reach for the weaver, but to bring others with him. This is the true path of the loom, not power, but harmony. Above, the stars watched with a mixture of suspicion and wonder. Celian, his crown blazing, observed Dorian's efforts closely. He does not seek to dominate, Celian murmured. Instead, he guides. Yet every mortal who touches the loom brings risk. One misstep, one ambition unchecked, and the balance could shatter. Some constellations whispered agreement, while others glimmered uneasily, their light flickering as they debated action. The loom above the weaver pulsed softly, threads weaving and unweaving, subtly correcting minor disturbances as Dorian's mortal influence spread. The moon weaver herself sat at her seat, silent yet vigilant. Her hands never left the shuttle. She did not intervene openly, for Dorian was learning, and lessons are most powerful when earned. In the valley, mortals began dreaming differently. They no longer sent stray hopes into the night blindly. They whispered intentions with care, thinking of others as well as themselves. Their dreams, guided by Dorian, now wove more smoothly into the tapestry of the loom. Even Celian admitted, though unwillingly, that the mortal's efforts had stabilized some threads that had been fraying. Perhaps the weaver's choice was wise, he conceded softly. Yet we must watch. Ambition can turn to fire in a heartbeat. Dorian, unaware of the celestial debate above, continued teaching with humility. He had learned the greatest lesson: a dream is not for one alone, and even the smallest act of care ripples far beyond the night. The stars waited, the shadows lurked, and the loom of the moon weaver hummed with quiet life, alive with mortal dreams, starlight, and the pulse of balance itself. Weeks passed, yet the tension above did not fade. Celian and the Council of Stars convened once more, their light sharp and restless. Dorian's influence spreads too far, Celian declared. Mortals whisper, dream, and now follow him. The balance must be tested, or all threads will unravel. A plan formed among the stars. Not a direct strike, as before, but a trial, one that would tempt, challenge, and confront Dorian in ways he could scarcely imagine. Shadows would rise, not as enemies, but as guides and mirrors, forcing the mortal to confront the depth of his own courage and humility. That night, Dorian dreamed more vividly than ever. He walked a path through a forest woven from silver and shadow. Each tree shimmered with starlight, yet their branches moved like living things, whispering doubts and fears. From the darkness, shadowed figures emerged, twisted reflections of himself. One whispered, "You are not worthy. You cannot protect them. The weaver will abandon you." Another hissed, "Your golden thread burns too bright. You will unmake all you touch." Dorian faltered. Sweat prickled his brow, and he stumbled. But then, he felt the weaver's presence, not as a figure, but as the steady pulse of the loom beneath him. "You are not alone," it whispered. "Every thread you hold matters. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to weave despite it." He steadied himself, clutching the golden thread. "I will endure," he murmured. "I will guide, not dominate. I will not break the balance." The shadows recoiled, testing him further, shifting into visions of loss, doubt, and temptation. A voice murmured, "You could seize the loom, claim the power of all dreams." Dorian's grip tightened. "No," he said firmly. "I seek not to rule, but to serve the weave." The loom above pulsed violently as Dorian faced the trial. Each shadow he encountered tested a different aspect of his heart: pride, ambition, envy, despair. Yet with each, he remembered the weaver's guidance. He did not banish them, he did not fight them with force. Instead, he wove them gently into his resolve, learning from their lessons. Above, the stars held their breath. Celian watched the golden thread tremble, yet remain unbroken. Could this mortal endure? Could he bear the weight of dreams and shadows alike? Dorian reached a clearing in the dream forest. There, the shadows formed a final challenge, a mirror reflecting his deepest fear, a world in which he had failed, the loom in tatters, mortals asleep in despair. He looked long and hard, breathing steadily. "This is my fear," he said softly. "But fear alone does not define me. I will weave, I will guide, and I will endure." The shadows shivered, dissipating like mist in dawn. The golden thread glowed warmly, no longer trembling. The weaver's presence hummed softly, approving, steady, proud. Celian's crown dimmed slightly, his brilliance subdued. Even he could not deny the mortal's triumph. "He has passed," he murmured. "The trial was meant to break him, and yet he stands, tempered and wise." The wind swept across the heavens. Balance remains. The mortal has learned, and the loom is safe, for now. But greater tests will come. Dorian awoke beneath the silver moon, drenched in sweat yet filled with serene clarity. He felt the threads within him pulse softly, stronger than ever. Not a ruler of dreams, not a master, but a guardian, a guide. The moon weaver had trusted him, and he had proven himself worthy. After passing the star's trial, Dorian awoke with a newfound serenity. His golden thread no longer pulsed recklessly, but hummed gently, aligned with the rhythm of the weaver's loom. He knew the responsibility of his gift, to guide, not dominate, to teach, not control. He gathered the villagers beneath the silver moon. "Dreams are not to be taken lightly," he began. "Each hope, each fear, each longing is a thread. We weave them every night, even when unaware. If we dream with care, we strengthen the cloth of the night, and the world below flourishes as well." Children leaned close, wide-eyed. Farmers listened, envisioning their crops thriving, while elders nodded in quiet recognition. "How do we guide them, Dorian?" one asked. He smiled gently. "First, observe your dreams. Do not force them. Let them flow. Then, imagine a thread of light connecting your intentions to others: kindness, courage, patience. Weave with care. Even shadows, your fears, have a place, they teach balance." That night, under his guidance, villagers closed their eyes and began to dream intentionally. The loom above thrummed with subtle harmony, threads intertwining more smoothly than before. Even the shadows, restless but attentive, adjusted to their new rhythm. Dorian realized that teaching was another kind of weaving, spreading understanding so that mortals could become threads in the tapestry, not just sparks in the dark. The weaver watched quietly, her presence a soft heartbeat through the night, approving but vigilant. Yet not all was calm. From the farthest edges of the heavens, whispers traveled along unseen currents. Some stars, jealous or wary of mortals' influence, murmured of imbalance. Others, older than Celian, hinted at something darker, an unseen force older than the weaver herself, lying in wait beyond the reach of starlight. Shadows shifted uneasily. Even the loom trembled subtly, as though sensing a disturbance not yet visible to mortal or star. Dorian, in his dreams, felt a faint chill. The golden thread quivered ever so slightly, and a voice, soft, distant, and unrecognizable, whispered from the edges of the night: "Not all threads are yours to guide. Some are older, and some hunger." He awoke, heart pounding, the memory of the whisper lingering like a frost on his mind. The villagers noticed the change. His serenity was tempered by vigilance, his calm by a subtle tension. "Something approaches," he admitted to himself. "Not yet here, but I can feel it." The moon weaver's presence pulsed beside him, steady but cautious. Dorian reached for the golden thread. It vibrated in response, reminding him that he had passed trials, yet warning him that far greater challenges awaited. Above, the stars watched silently. Celian's crown dimmed, reflective. The mortal thrives, but the darkness stirs. The loom itself may yet face its greatest test. The wind whispered through the valley, "Prepare. What comes next will demand every lesson, every thread, and every ounce of courage." The night held its breath. The nights grew heavier. Even under the silver glow of the moon, the valley seemed tinged with unease. Dorian felt it first in his dreams, threads of cold, black mist slithering along the edges of the loom, resisting the flow of both light and shadow. He awoke one evening, heart pounding, sensing the presence of something ancient and patient, something that had watched before the first star ever burned. The golden thread quivered as if recognizing the approach of an unfamiliar force. The moon weaver hovered near, her presence calm yet alert. "You feel it," she murmured, though no sound passed mortal ears. Dorian nodded. "It's dark. Older than any star, heavier than any shadow I've faced." Above, Celian's crown flared with caution. "It is beyond mortal reckoning. Even your weaver may find it difficult to hold the loom." The wind stirred, restless. It hungers for imbalance. It does not reason, does not wait for opportunity. It waits for the loom itself to falter. That night, in the dream world, Dorian found himself standing on a plain of fractured threads. The shadows moved differently now, sharper and hungrier, whispering ancient fears and lost possibilities. Their voice was cold and deep. "All light shall be unmade. All dreams shall feed me." The weaver reached for his golden thread, wrapping silver strands around it. "Hold fast," she whispered. "This is the first test of what lies beyond even the stars." Dorian clenched the thread in his hands, feeling its warmth and weight. "I have faced shadows before," he thought. "I can face this too." The loom pulsed violently, threads stretching under the pressure of the unseen darkness. Even minor dreams flickered, some unraveling temporarily before Dorian's steady hand and the weaver's guidance rewove them into place. The shadows whispered incessantly. "You are too small. You cannot hold the night. Let it all fall." Dorian's heart raced, yet he drew a deep breath. "I may be small," he muttered to himself, "but I am part of the loom. I will not let it fall." The moon weaver moved beside him, her hands never leaving the shuttle. She wove strands of silver, threads of light that intertwined with the golden, forming a lattice strong enough to resist the coldest tendrils. Even Celian watched from above, uneasily impressed by the mortal's courage and the weaver's skill. The shadow surged. It clawed at the threads of the loom itself, seeking to unweave centuries of care. Yet Dorian, guided by the weaver's steady presence, held fast. Each fear, each doubt whispered by the shadows, he faced with calm resolve, weaving them gently into understanding rather than rejection. The wind roared through the heavens. This is the first true trial. The darkness tests all, mortal, weaver, and star alike. Above, the stars twinkled tensely. None moved, all watching. Balance teetered on the edge of collapse, yet for the first time, even Celian felt a sliver of hope. Perhaps, with the weaver and this mortal together, the loom could endure what had never been faced before. Dorian's golden thread pulsed, steady and resolute, resisting the pull of the dark. And above, the moon weaver's loom trembled, but it did not break. The night held its breath. The shadow from the far reaches of the heavens did not retreat. Night after night, it slithered along the edges of the loom, cold and patient. Its whispers grew louder, almost tangible. "All threads will break. All dreams are mine. None shall endure." Dorian felt it pressing against his golden thread, a weight unlike any he had felt before. His courage wavered, but only briefly. The moon weaver's presence hummed through him like a heartbeat, steadying his resolve. "You are stronger than you know," she whispered, though he could feel it rather than hear. "The thread you hold is not yours alone, it is part of the loom. You are connected to all, and all are connected to you." He closed his eyes, letting the golden thread flow through him, pulsing with every dream, every hope of the mortals below. He realized that his power was not in defiance, nor in ambition, but in harmony, the ability to guide, to weave courage, and to anchor the loom's rhythm in the hearts of mortals. The shadow recoiled at this revelation. Its tendrils lashed violently, trying to unravel the golden thread, but Dorian reached within himself and pulled strength from the bond he shared with the weaver. Threads of silver and starlight entwined with his golden thread, creating a lattice that resisted the cold pull of the darkness. Celian and the stars watched, astonished. "The mortal wields not only courage, but understanding," murmured one distant constellation. "Perhaps he can endure where we feared none could." The wind whistled through the heavens. He has learned a truth often forgotten: power is not control, but connection. And the loom rewards those who understand it. That night, in his dreams, Dorian found himself standing at the center of the loom. Threads of every color, gold, silver, crimson, shadow, radiated from his hands like rivers of light. For the first time, he felt their energy flowing into him, not as separate strands, but as a living whole. Every thread matters, he whispered, his voice steady and calm. Every fear, every hope, every longing. I am part of them, and they are part of me. The moon weaver appeared, faceless yet radiant, her presence flowing through the loom like a steady tide. She wove beside him, guiding his hands without taking control. The golden thread pulsed brighter than ever, yet steady, no longer trembling with fear or ambition. Then, a surge of light shot from the loom. Dorian felt the hidden power within him awaken, the ability to temper shadows, to harmonize fear and hope, and to stabilize threads even when the darkness pressed hardest. The ancient shadow recoiled, hissing in frustration. Every tendril it threw at the loom now met resistance not only from the weaver but from Dorian himself. He had become a conduit of balance, a living anchor for the tapestry of dreams. Celian, watching from above, felt the crown's brilliance dim slightly, a gesture almost like acknowledgement. The mortal grows beyond expectation, perhaps he is the key the loom has awaited for centuries. The wind whirled around the sleeping valley, carrying whispers of awe and warning alike. A greater test still approaches, but with this power, the threads of the night have a champion. Dorian awoke beneath the silver moon, his heart steady. The golden thread hummed softly in him, reminding him of the bond, the responsibility, and the trials yet to come. Above, the loom pulsed with life. And far beyond the reach of stars and mortals, the ancient darkness lingered, watching, waiting. The nights had grown unnervingly still. Even the stars twinkled with tension, their light sharp and cautious. Dorian, aware of the darkness lurking beyond the edges of the heavens, felt an uneasy stir in his dreams. Then it struck. From the void beyond the loom, the shadow surged forward, vast and undulating. Its tendrils were no longer faint whispers or creeping cold, they struck with intent, clawing at threads, unraveling even the weaver's silver strands as though testing the limits of her power. Dorian found himself at the center of the loom once more, golden thread pulsing fiercely in his hands. The shadows hissed, "You cannot hold this. You are not enough. The weaver is not enough. I am not alone." Dorian shouted, and the golden thread flared brightly, intertwining with the weaver's silver strands. "I am part of the loom. I am part of every dream, every hope, every thread." The weaver moved alongside him, her shuttle weaving protective patterns faster than the shadow could tear. Streams of starlight braided with silver and gold, forming a lattice of light and courage. Celian's crown flared above, sending a warning through the stars. The mortal fights beyond his size. The loom trembles. Be cautious, weaver, he may yet survive, but at what cost? The wind whipped through the heavens. He is strong, but this is the beginning. The shadow tests not only the mortal but the very weave of night itself. Dorian faced the assault, heart steady, mind calm. He had learned fear, he had learned patience, and he had discovered that the loom itself flowed through him. Every tendril of shadow he met was absorbed, transformed into a lesson, woven into understanding rather than destruction. The assault raged, threads snapping, dreams flickering, and shadows striking in relentless waves. Yet Dorian did not falter. With each pull on the golden thread, he felt the weaver's guidance flow through him. Together, they stabilized the loom, the lattice of gold and silver stretching farther than ever before. The shadow shrieked, trying to break through the combined strength of mortal and weaver. Yet Dorian remembered the lessons of the previous trials. Fear is not the enemy, ambition is not the enemy. Harmony is the power. With a surge of focus, he wove the threads of his dreams into the lattice, anchoring hope, courage, and understanding in every fiber of the loom. The golden thread pulsed like a heartbeat at the center, radiating outward. Shadows recoiled, unable to consume the balance reinforced by mortal and weaver alike. Celian observed silently, crown dimmed in awe. The mortal has become part of the loom itself. Perhaps none among the stars could endure such an assault without his bond to her. The wind roared in triumph. The loom survives. Balance is maintained, yet the darkness still lurks. The test is not over. Dorian's hands shook from exertion, yet his eyes glimmered with quiet strength. The moon weaver's presence hummed steadily, approving. "You have held fast," she whispered. "But the shadows are patient, and their trials are far from finished." The loom trembled, threads pulsing with the tension of battle, yet it held. The valley below slept in quiet, unaware that their dreams had been defended by a mortal and a weaver united against an ancient darkness. Far beyond, in the void, the shadow lingered, waiting, calculating. The true test was yet to come. The nights after the first assault were restless. Dorian sensed it immediately. The shadow had not retreated. Instead, it shifted its strategy, moving subtly, slipping into the dreams of mortals, twisting small hopes into doubt and fear. In the valley, villagers awoke trembling, haunted by visions of failure, loss, and despair. Even simple dreams, a child's laughter, a farmer's harvest, were tainted with unease. The loom above quivered as threads weakened, vulnerable to the shadow's insidious reach. Dorian felt the tremors in his golden thread. "It's changing," he murmured, voice tense. "It no longer attacks directly, it moves through their minds. It tries to unweave from within." The moon weaver's presence pulsed beside him. "Then your guidance must reach deeper," she whispered. "Strengthen their threads, not only your own. You are part of the loom, but now you must be part of the people's dreams as well." Closing his eyes, Dorian reached out through the golden thread, touching the essence of each dream, threading courage, hope, and clarity into their fears. Shadows hissed and twisted, but he held steady. The wind whispered through the heavens, anxious and alert. The darkness has learned subtlety. This is a greater test than brute assault. He must weave not only with skill but with empathy. Even Celian watched with wary respect. The mortal does not falter. Yet the shadow is patient. It will wait, it will probe, and it will strike at the heart of his own fears next. That night, Dorian fell into a dream unlike any before. The valley appeared in ruins, the villagers trapped in darkness, threads unraveling around them. And at the center stood a figure, himself, twisted and shadowed, eyes burning with fear and doubt. "You cannot save them," it whispered. "You are not enough. The weaver's power is not yours to command. You will fail." Dorian staggered, heart pounding. Every fear he had suppressed surfaced: failure, pride, inadequacy. He felt the golden thread tremble violently. The loom above seemed distant, silver strands flickering under strain. The moon weaver's presence touched him softly. Courage is not absence of fear, but persistence in its presence. He breathed deeply, gripping the golden thread, and whispered, "I am part of the loom. I am not alone. I will not let fear dictate my thread." With that, the shadow self lunged, yet Dorian wove it into the lattice rather than resisting. Every doubt, every fear, became a lesson, a strand reinforcing the loom instead of unraveling it. Light intertwined with shadow, golden thread glowing steadily as silver pulses strengthened around it. The shadow shrieked and recoiled, frustrated by Dorian's newfound insight. He had learned the secret: darkness cannot simply be fought, it must be understood and woven. The moon weaver's presence shimmered, proud yet cautious. "You have taken the first step in mastering both yourself and the loom. But the trials are not finished. The darkness is patient." Celian, watching from the stars, spoke softly. "He grows beyond expectation, perhaps he may endure what none before have." The valley slept peacefully, unaware that their dreams were now defended not only by courage but by understanding, and that Dorian had begun to weave shadows into balance rather than fear. The nights grew heavier, the stars dimmed slightly in caution, and the loom above pulsed uneasily. The shadow, frustrated by Dorian's skill at weaving it into balance, had grown bolder. It surged through the void with malice, stretching tendrils toward the loom itself. Dorian sensed the approach before he saw it. Threads of silver and gold vibrated violently beneath his touch. "It's coming," he murmured, gripping the golden thread tightly. It's no longer content with the edges. It wants the loom itself. The moon weaver appeared at his side, radiant, steady but tense. "Prepare yourself. This is the first strike aimed at the core. You must act with precision and courage. The loom can withstand it only if we work as one." Tendrils of darkness slithered into the fabric of the loom, curling around threads of silver and gold, attempting to sever connections. Every pulse of the loom now carried tension, threads trembling under the strain of unseen force. Celian and the stars observed from above, their light sharp, their judgment poised. "The mortal's courage is commendable," one murmured. "But can he endure when the loom itself is under assault?" Dorian's hands glowed with golden light as he wove his threads alongside the weaver's silver strands. Each tendril of darkness met resistance. He drew strength from his bond with the mortals, the golden thread pulsating with their hopes and dreams. "You cannot break what is united," he shouted into the void. The loom vibrated violently, yet Dorian and the weaver held firm, weaving together, balancing shadow and light, determination and understanding. The shadow struck repeatedly, attempting to force the loom into chaos. Threads of silver snapped, golden strands wavered, and dreams trembled in the mortal world. The valley below slept uneasily, whispers of unrest threading through their subconscious. Dorian closed his eyes and reached into the heart of the loom. He allowed himself to feel the pulse of every dream he had touched, every fear he had confronted, every hope he had nurtured. The golden thread responded, thickening and glowing, stronger than ever. The moon weaver's hands moved in perfect synchrony, weaving protective patterns that intertwined with Dorian's golden thread. Together, they created a lattice strong enough to resist the shadow's assault. The shadow shrieked and recoiled, unable to penetrate the unity of mortal courage and weaver guidance. Celian, observing silently, lowered his crown slightly in acknowledgement. The mortal has become part of the loom itself. Balance endures, but the darkness is patient. It will return. The wind whispered, triumphant but wary, "The loom survives. The mortal has proven himself." Yet this was only the beginning of the true trials. Dorian opened his eyes, sweat and silver moonlight on his brow. The loom trembled, still alive, still vibrant. The shadow lingered at the edges of perception, plotting, waiting, but it had been repelled. Above, the moon weaver's presence shimmered proudly. She had guided him, but he had faced the core of darkness himself. Together, they had held the loom. The stars watched silently, aware now that this mortal and the weaver might be the first to endure trials older than the heavens themselves. For nights after the assault on the loom, Dorian sensed a change in the darkness. It no longer moved in crude attacks or whispers of doubt. It had evolved. Every tendril seemed sharper, faster, and more cunning, weaving its presence subtly into dreams and even into threads of the loom itself. Dorian felt the pull immediately. Threads of gold and silver shivered unnaturally, as if some unseen hand sought to twist their pattern. He frowned, tightening his grip on the golden thread. "It's learning, adapting. This is no ordinary trial," he murmured. The moon weaver's presence pulsed beside him, steady yet tinged with concern. "The shadow grows cleverer. It studies your threads, your movements, your heart. You must now weave not only with hands but with awareness." That night, in his dreams, Dorian encountered visions of the valley falling into chaos, villagers lost in darkness, threads fraying, hope dimming. From the shadows emerged figures. Familiar faces twisted by doubt and fear, speaking in the void's voice. "You cannot protect them. Your bond is fragile. You will fail." Dorian's heart pounded, but he recalled every lesson: courage in fear, understanding in shadow, patience in uncertainty. He did not recoil. Instead, he extended his golden thread like a river of light into the void. The shadows recoiled at the warmth of hope and connection flowing from him, yet adapted, curling around his thread with more precision than before. The wind roared through the heavens. "It has learned from you, mortal. The shadow evolves because you endure. Now, your bond must be tested, not brute strength, but unity. Celian's crown glimmered with apprehension. This is unlike anything the stars have faced. The loom itself may strain beneath such subtle, cunning pressure. The next night, the shadow struck differently. It did not attack the golden thread alone. It sought to divide Dorian from the weaver, infiltrating his dreams with doubt about her guidance. She cannot protect you. She will abandon you. You must face this alone, it whispered. Dorian felt a chill run through his veins. For the first time, the loom seemed distant, the silver strands pulsing less vividly. He hesitated, heart quivering. Could he endure without the weaver? Then her presence flowed into him, not as direction, but as calm heartbeat. You are not alone. We are bound. Your thread and mine are one. The shadow cannot sever what is united. He reached out, golden and silver threads intertwining through him, pulsing with life. Shadows struck, twisting and twisting, but he held firm. Every doubt and fear that the shadow tried to plant was woven into understanding and trust. He could feel the weaver's presence strengthen each pulse of his thread. The loom trembled under the strain, but for the first time, Dorian felt its heartbeat in unison with his own. The shadow shrieked, unable to exploit fear or doubt. Unity had become a shield stronger than any single thread. Celian watched silently, crown dimmed in awe. The mortal has learned the most ancient truth: no thread can stand alone. Alone, we falter. Together, even darkness may be held. The wind whispered in celebration. The bond endures. But patience, patience, for the shadow is ancient, and its next trial will test not only courage and unity, but the very soul of the mortal and weaver alike. Dorian awoke beneath the silver moon, breath steady. His golden thread pulsed softly, entwined forever with the weaver's silver, reminding him that together, they could face even evolving darkness. The nights grew restless in the valley. Dreams twisted into nightmares, whispers of dread curling through the minds of mortals. Children awoke crying, farmers cursed their failing crops, elders muttered of lost paths. Dorian felt it in his golden thread: the shadow had moved beyond the loom. It now reached into the world of mortals themselves, threading fear and despair directly into their hearts. Its tendrils coiled around the threads of hope, tugging them loose, fraying connections, and threatening to unravel the balance the weaver and Dorian had fought so long to preserve. He closed his eyes and felt the heartbeat of the world. Every dream, every fear, every flicker of hope sent ripples through the loom. It's reaching them directly, he whispered. I must weave faster, stronger, but carefully. The moon weaver's presence flowed beside him. This is the first time it moves beyond dreams. You must act with wisdom and speed. Guide, do not dominate; touch, do not control. Dorian extended his golden thread outward, connecting to threads far beyond the village, threads of distant travelers, unseen children, wandering minds. He wove carefully, reinforcing courage, hope, and love into each vulnerable strand. The weaver braided silver around his golden flows, stabilizing connections against the shadow's insidious touch. Above, Celian and the stars held their light tense, witnessing a mortal weaving at a scale few could comprehend. This is unprecedented, one star whispered. A single human reaches beyond his bounds. The shadow lashed out, its tendrils twisting through the threads like knives, attempting to sever connections between mortal hearts and the loom. Dorian felt a sharp resistance in his golden thread as despair threatened to overwhelm him. Steady, he murmured, breathing deeply. One thread at a time. One dream at a time. The weaver's silver strands coiled around him like a river of light, her presence humming through every pulse. Together, they began weaving what Dorian called the weave of protection, a lattice of gold and silver extending far beyond the valley, reaching into every dream the shadow had touched. Each mortal mind stabilized, fear subsided, hope renewed. Even where nightmares threatened to spiral, Dorian's threads guided courage and understanding into their hearts. Shadows shrieked and recoiled, unable to disrupt the weave, yet adapting, probing for the slightest weakness. Celian, observing from above, whispered reluctantly, "The mortal surpasses expectation. He touches the weave of reality itself. Yet, the shadow is ancient. Its patience is endless." The wind swirled through the heavens, a gust of cautious triumph. "The weave holds, but remember, patience, mortal. The darkness evolves, and the threads of the loom will be tested beyond imagination." Dorian opened his eyes beneath the silver moon, heart pounding but steady. His golden thread hummed strongly, entwined with the weaver's silver, carrying the pulse of hope for countless mortals. He had faced the shadow's first direct assault on the world itself, and survived. But even as he breathed, he sensed the darkness lurking beyond perception, watching, waiting, ready for its next strike. The nights after the weave of protection were restless, even for Dorian. The golden thread pulsed gently in him, but a new unease gnawed at the edges of his mind. The shadow had grown cleverer. It no longer struck with brute force or whispers alone. It now wove illusions that blurred the line between dream and reality. Dorian awoke one morning to find the valley strangely altered. Trees bent at impossible angles, rivers shimmered with unnatural silver light, and the villagers moved with vacant expressions, murmuring words that made no sense. His heart raced. Was this a dream, or had the shadow invaded the waking world? The moon weaver's presence flowed beside him, steady but tense. It tests perception now. The threads of reality and dream are entwined. You must discern and weave with clarity. Closing his eyes, Dorian reached into the golden thread, tracing the lattice he had woven through dreams. He felt the pulse of every mortal mind, every hope, every fear. The illusion trembled under the touch of the weave, flickering like mist in sunlight. A shadowed figure emerged before him, shaped like himself but twisted and warped. "You cannot hold them," it hissed. "You cannot hold reality. Your threads are fragile." Dorian swallowed his fear. "I am not alone," he whispered, letting the golden thread expand, intertwining with the weaver's silver, stabilizing the illusions one by one. "I will guide, I will protect, and I will weave both dreams and reality." The wind roared through the heavens. The shadow seeks confusion, but clarity is its undoing. Strengthen the threads of perception, mortal. Dorian reached deep into the weave, following the golden thread into the very hearts of those affected. He wove not just hope, but memory, trust, and connection, anchoring their threads firmly in reality while blending courage and understanding into the fabric of their dreams. The shadow shrieked, striking at the center of his lattice. It twisted the golden thread, attempting to sever the connection between him and the weaver. Dorian felt the pulse of her presence strengthen in response. "You are one with me. The shadow cannot divide what is united." He drew a deep breath and extended his threads outward, linking every strand it had touched back to the loom's core. Light braided with shadow, hope interlaced with fear, forming a lattice so strong it repelled the shadow's illusions entirely. Celian and the stars observed, stunned at the scale of mortal influence. "He touches the weave of reality itself," one whispered. "A human guiding the loom." Perhaps this was what the weaver intended all along. The valley slowly returned to its familiar form. Trees righted themselves, rivers shimmered naturally, and the villagers awoke, blinking with renewed clarity, free of the shadow's illusions. Dorian sank to his knees beneath the silver moon, golden thread pulsing steadily in him. The shadow lingered still, patient and observing, but its attempt had failed. The moon weaver's presence hummed softly, proud but cautious. "You have anchored the threads, mortal. But remember, this is only a beginning. The darkness evolves. And so must you." Above, the stars twinkled tensely, aware now that the loom's trials had grown far beyond anything they had imagined. The days following the illusions were calm on the surface, but Dorian sensed a new subtle threat. The shadow no longer relied on direct assaults or even manipulation of dreams. It had learned to strike through the connections he cherished most. In dreams, villagers he had grown close to appeared, their faces twisted with pain or despair. A child he had comforted whispered accusations, "You promised protection, and yet I am lost." A farmer he had guided trembled in shadowed fear, "Why can't you save us all?" Dorian's heart ached. These threads were not mere illusions. They were echoes of the shadow's cunning, meant to exploit guilt, attachment, and doubt. Every emotional bond he had nurtured became a potential weapon against him. The Moon Weaver's presence flowed beside him, steady and calm. Do not let emotion fracture your will. The threads of the heart are powerful, but they can anchor as well as ensnare. He reached for the golden thread, feeling every connection he had formed. He let the warmth of care, understanding, and love flow through the strands, weaving them into a lattice stronger than fear or doubt. Every villager's hope, every flicker of courage, became a pulse in the loom itself. The shadow hissed, striking with shards of doubt, but Dorian faced each one with honesty and humility. I cannot control all fear, he murmured, but I can guide, and I can weave strength where I am able. Above, Celian and the stars watched in stunned silence. A mortal strengthens bonds, not by avoiding fear, but by facing it with compassion. Perhaps this is the true power the loom was meant to hold. That night, the shadow intensified its assault. Dreams in the valley became fraught with tension, and every thread Dorian touched pulsed with emotional weight. He felt the strain of responsibility more acutely than ever, the fear of failure, the worry for others, the pull of hope against despair. Dorian knelt in the heart of the loom, holding his golden thread tightly. I feel your weight, he whispered to the threads. I will not abandon you. I will weave courage, understanding, and hope into every pulse, even when fear is near. The Moon Weaver's silver strands intertwined with his, reinforcing the connections he had woven with mortals. Together, they created a lattice that absorbed the shadow's emotional attacks, turning each doubt and pang of guilt into a strand of strength. The shadow shrieked, lashes of darkness curling like tendrils through the loom, attempting to fracture the bonds between Dorian and the mortals. But the golden thread pulsed with resilience, every emotional bond tempered by his compassion and guidance. The wind whistled triumphantly through the heavens. The threads of the heart are the strongest of all. Courage is not merely strength, but the choice to care even when the weight is great. Celian's crown glimmered, reflective. The mortal endures not through power alone, but through connection. This is beyond what we foresaw. Dorian awoke beneath the silver moon, exhausted yet unwavering. The golden thread hummed with life, entwined with every bond he had nurtured. He understood now, the shadow could attack in any form, but the strength of care, trust, and unity could anchor even the most fragile threads. Above, the Moon Weaver's presence pulsed softly. You have faced the loom's deepest emotional test. But the darkness is patient. Greater trials await, and you must be ready. The nights were no longer calm. The shadow, having learned from every prior encounter, launched a coordinated assault on the loom, the dreams of mortals, and even Dorian's own mind. Tendrils of darkness struck simultaneously, fraying threads of hope, twisting perceptions, and whispering fears, doubts, and guilt with cruel precision. Dorian awoke in the dream realm to find the loom quivering violently. Villagers' dreams flickered like flames in a storm, threads snapping and reforming under relentless pressure. Shadows, illusions, and emotional attacks assaulted him from every direction, testing his endurance, his wisdom, and his compassion all at once. The Moon Weaver appeared beside him, silver strands weaving desperately to hold the loom together. This is the culmination of all its trials, she whispered. Your skill, your courage, your compassion, all will be needed. Together, we must weave faster, stronger, and wiser than ever before. Dorian gritted his teeth, gripping the golden thread. I am not alone, he shouted. We are the loom, the threads, the dreams, and the hope. You will not break us. The wind roared across the heavens. The shadow strikes with all it has learned. Even the stars tremble at its cunning. Above, Celian watched tensely. This is the first time mortal and weaver face the shadow fully united. The loom itself may strain, but perhaps it will endure. Dorian extended his golden thread outward, interlacing it with every thread in the loom, weaving hope into despair, courage into fear, and understanding into doubt. The Moon Weaver braided silver alongside him, her hands moving faster than ever, creating a lattice of light that stretched across mortal dreams and through the core of the loom itself. The shadow shrieked, striking with every tactic it had ever used: brute force, whispers, illusions, emotional manipulation, but Dorian remained steadfast. Every fear, every doubt, every attempt at division was woven into understanding, tempered by compassion and guided by the weaver. The loom trembled violently, yet held. Golden light pulsed at its heart, intertwined with silver, creating what Dorian instinctively called the lattice of eternity. Each thread carried not only strength but unity, connecting mortal hearts, dreams, and courage across the world. Celian and the stars watched in awe, some flickering with disbelief. The mortal. He has become more than we imagined. Perhaps he is the first to hold the loom's heart in perfect harmony. The wind swept triumphantly through the heavens. The assault is repelled. The loom endures, stronger than ever, and the shadow has been held at bay. But it is patient. It waits. Its greatest test has not yet come. Dorian sank to his knees beneath the silver moon, exhausted but steady. The golden thread hummed in resonance with every heartbeat it touched. The moon weaver's presence flowed beside him like a gentle tide. Together, they had woven courage, hope, and unity stronger than darkness itself. Far beyond, in the shadows of the void, the ancient darkness lingered, silent and calculating. It had been repelled, but the loom's greatest trials were still to come. After the massive assault, the loom quivered with residual tension. Dorian awoke beneath the silver moon, golden thread pulsing softly but steadily, the lattice of eternity still humming with life. Yet he sensed something new. The shadow, relentless as it was, now moved with hesitation, subtle uncertainty. In his dreams, the darkness no longer struck with overwhelming force. Instead, it lingered at the edges, probing, whispering fragmented questions rather than commands. Why do you resist? Why do your threads endure? Dorian's heart raced. It's unsure, he murmured to the weaver. It's never faltered like this before. Something's changing. The moon weaver's silver strands pulsed with acknowledgement. The shadow is ancient, but not infinite. It has learned to fear the strength of unity. And now it must reveal itself to survive. Above, Celian and the stars observed closely. For the first time, it hesitates, one murmured. Perhaps even a mortal can force revelation from such darkness. Dorian followed the golden thread deeper into the dream realm. Shadows coalesced into shapes he had never seen, forms older than stars, yet familiar in their coldness. Whispers echoed, "We are beyond light. We are the void between stars, the hunger beneath dreams." Yet, why do we hesitate? A subtle chill ran through the loom. The shadow, once a singular force, was showing cracks, signs of desperation, signs of origin. The shadow pulsed violently, then faltered. From the depths of the void, it began to take form, a figure both terrifying and majestic, woven from darkness older than time itself. Eyes like black holes pierced the threads, yet its voice trembled as it spoke. We are the absence. The void before light, the pause before creation. We have endured the first loom, but not this unity. Dorian felt the golden thread vibrate with recognition. The shadow was no ordinary darkness, it was primordial, the very essence of unformed chaos, older than stars, older than the weaver's silver loom. Its desperation stemmed not from fear, but from encountering something it could not devour, understanding, unity, and love threaded into form by mortal hands. The moon weaver's presence flowed alongside him, steady yet alert. This is its nature revealed. It has no malice, only hunger, and it has never encountered threads united in such harmony. Celian's crown flared with a mixture of awe and caution. The void itself is before you. Mortal, you have faced not shadows, but the essence of unmade dreams. The loom's true challenge begins here. Dorian's heart pounded, golden thread pulsing with resolve. We do not fear you, he whispered. We will weave you into balance, even if it takes everything we have. The shadow recoiled slightly, as if startled by the assertion. Its tendrils quivered in uncertainty. The loom itself thrummed with tension, holding breath in anticipation of what would come next, the first true dialogue between light and void, mortal and ancient darkness. Dorian stood at the heart of the loom, golden thread pulsing like a heartbeat. Before him, the primordial shadow hovered, immense and incomprehensible, tendrils stretching through the void like rivers of nothingness. Its voice echoed within the loom, "Why do you persist, mortal? Why do you fight that which was never meant to be woven?" He breathed deeply, gripping the thread, feeling the pulse of every dream, every hope, every bond he had nurtured in mortals. "Because even darkness has a place in the tapestry," he whispered. "You are part of the loom too. Even the void has a thread, and it deserves balance, not destruction." The moon weaver's silver strands flowed around him, steady and guiding. "You will not control it with force. You must weave understanding. Show it that balance is possible." Dorian extended the golden thread toward the shadow. Slowly, deliberately, he braided courage, hope, and compassion into the strands. He let the darkness touch his thread without resistance, letting understanding flow into the void rather than trying to dominate it. The shadow recoiled, tendrils twisting and writhing, but it did not strike. For the first time, it seemed uncertain. The wind whistled softly through the heavens. The mortal weaves not to bind, but to reconcile. This is wisdom the void has never known. Celian and the stars shimmered in disbelief. He does not fight it. He converses with it through the loom itself. Could it be that the void can be tempered? The primordial shadow pulsed, dark and immense, yet it faltered under the warmth of Dorian's thread. Slowly, the tendrils began to weave with his golden strands instead of against them. Light and darkness intertwined, trembling but tentative. Dorian whispered, guiding the connection, "You are part of the loom, as are we all. Your essence can flow with balance, not chaos. Let us find harmony together." The moon weaver's silver threads braided through the golden and shadowed strands, creating a lattice of unprecedented complexity. The void shimmered faintly, as if tasting structure for the first time, trembling with possibility. The shadow's voice softened, almost questioning, "I have never been woven like this. I do not understand." "You will learn," Dorian said gently. "All threads take time to find their place. Even yours." The loom pulsed in resonance with the mortal's words, the golden thread glowing stronger than ever, silver threads flowing seamlessly, and the shadow's tendrils now trembling with possibility rather than malice. Celian watched silently, crown dimmed in awe. The mortal has not only endured the void, he has begun to teach it to weave. The wind whispered, reverent, unity through understanding. Courage through compassion. Even the primordial darkness bends, not to power, but to harmony. Dorian's heart steadied beneath the silver moon. He knew this was only the beginning of a greater dialogue, but for the first time, the void had threads, and those threads were part of the loom. The loom pulsed with a fragile rhythm. Dorian's golden thread intertwined with silver and shadow, forming a lattice stronger and more delicate than anything he had woven before. The primordial void no longer lashed or hissed, it hovered, immense but hesitant, as if weighing the possibility of cooperation. Dorian spoke softly into the threads, "You are part of the loom. You do not have to destroy to exist. Your essence can flow with balance, alongside ours." The moon weaver's presence enveloped him, guiding his hands. "Patience, mortal. The void is ancient. Its acceptance must be gradual. Strengthen your bond without forcing it." Tendrils of shadow began to pulse with a softer light, weaving tentatively with the golden and silver threads. Dorian could feel their essence shifting, curious, learning, hesitant, yet willing to be part of the tapestry. Celian watched silently from above. The mortal has achieved what no star could, coaxing the primordial darkness into understanding. Yet it remains volatile. Stabilization is key. The wind whispered, "Even now, it tests him. The void will attempt subtle unrest. Only the courage to endure without controlling it can anchor the loom." Dorian focused, extending every strand of hope, every pulse of empathy, every flicker of understanding, until the shadow hesitated no longer. It intertwined fully with his golden thread, trembling in harmony with the weaver's silver. The loom shivered under the weight of ancient power, the lattice of eternity now extending to the very heart of the void. Dorian inhaled deeply, letting the golden thread pulse with patience and compassion. The moon weaver braided her silver strands carefully, creating points of stability throughout the lattice. The shadow's tendrils no longer sought to sever or dominate, they flowed alongside, tentative yet cooperative. Dorian whispered encouragement, guiding them gently, teaching the void to weave alongside light rather than against it. Above, the stars twinkled with astonishment. Celian murmured, "Balance has never been tested like this." A mortal, with guidance and courage, stabilizes a force older than creation itself. The wind swirled triumphantly, yet softly. Patience and understanding, mortal. The loom holds, but vigilance is eternal. Dorian's golden thread glowed steadily. Every mortal dream beneath the valley pulsed with life, and the void, for the first time, became a thread of balance rather than chaos. The loom itself seemed to hum with a deeper resonance, an echo of unity across time and space. The moon weaver's presence flowed beside him like a calm tide. "You have anchored what was once unmade. But remember, mortal, vigilance is eternal. Threads may fray, darkness may stir, but with patience and compassion, balance endures." Dorian exhaled beneath the silver moon, his hands steady, his heart resolute. For the first time, the void had found a place in the loom, and the tapestry of dreams, mortals, and stars hummed in perfect, if delicate, harmony. For the first time, the void no longer lingered at the edges of the loom with hesitation or malice. Its tendrils now moved deliberately, weaving alongside the golden and silver threads instead of against them. The shadow pulsed in rhythm with Dorian's heartbeat, tentative yet confident. Dorian watched, awestruck. You're helping," he whispered. "We are learning," the shadow murmured, a voice resonant yet soft, like echoes in a vast chasm. "The loom is not destruction. It is balance. And balance is stronger than chaos." The moon weaver's silver strands intertwined with the golden and shadow threads, creating intricate lattices that extended farther than ever before. "This is unprecedented," she murmured. "A mortal has coaxed the primordial darkness into cooperation. The loom itself will remember this moment." Above, Celian observed silently. "The mortal has not only endured, he has transformed the void into a partner. This is a shift older than any star." Dorian felt the golden thread expand with newfound energy. Dreams of mortals pulsed brightly, untainted by fear or doubt. The shadow, now weaving purposefully, helped stabilize frayed strands and even repaired threads Dorian had thought lost. The wind whistled through the heavens, triumphant. The void has learned to weave. Cooperation is the new rhythm. The loom hummed stronger than ever. The valley below slept peacefully, dreams flowing freely, untouched by darkness. Dorian's hands moved gracefully, golden thread pulsating with life, while silver and shadow entwined in perfect harmony. The shadow's tendrils now moved with deliberation, aiding Dorian in guiding mortal dreams. "We understand more now," it whispered. "Together, the loom is whole." Dorian smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. "Together," he repeated, letting the golden thread pulse stronger. "Mortals, moon weaver, stars, and even you, we can maintain this harmony together." The moon weaver's presence shimmered softly, proud and gentle. A new chapter begins. The loom will endure because of unity, compassion, and understanding. Even primordial darkness can have its place. Celian's crown glimmered faintly, a quiet acknowledgement of the mortal's unprecedented achievement. The mortal has not only preserved the loom, he has expanded it. A new era of dreams begins. The wind whispered across the heavens. "Patience, courage, and understanding, these threads endure. Even the oldest darkness now contributes to balance. A future once feared now glimmers with possibility." Dorian's golden thread pulsed steadily beneath the silver moon. He understood now that the loom's challenges would never end entirely, but with unity and compassion, even ancient darkness could be woven into harmony. And far beyond, in the stillness of the void, the shadow moved willingly, no longer a threat, but a participant in the tapestry of life, dreams, and stars. The nights were calm at last, the valley sleeping beneath a sky that shimmered with harmony. Dorian moved through the loom with ease, golden thread pulsing in rhythm with mortal dreams, while silver and shadow interwove seamlessly. The lattice of eternity held firmly, stretching across the cosmos like a network of hope, courage, and understanding. He paused and let the threads hum beneath his hands. Every dream of every mortal he had touched pulsed with life, every fear transformed into understanding, every hope strengthened. Even the primordial void, once a force of unrelenting chaos, now contributed to the weave. The moon weaver's presence flowed around him, soft and steady. Balance endures because of you, mortal. But remember, the loom is alive. It requires vigilance, patience, and care. You are its guardian now. Dorian exhaled beneath the silver moon, heart steady yet heavy with the weight of responsibility. I understand, he murmured. The loom will always need guidance. But I am not alone. I have the weaver, the shadow, and the threads of every dream to help me. Celian watched silently from above, crown glimmering. A mortal has woven harmony into the void and the stars themselves. The loom has never known such balance, nor such wisdom. The wind whispered, triumphant and gentle. The threads are steady. The darkness no longer threatens. The mortal has held the loom together, and created a future worth dreaming. Dorian rose, golden thread shimmering in the quiet night. The shadow, once feared, pulsed softly beside him, now a partner in the eternal work of the loom. The moon weaver braided silver through the threads, her presence gentle, guiding but never forcing. Do you understand? The weaver asked. I do, Dorian replied, voice calm. The loom is alive. Its threads are all connected. Dreams, hope, fear, even darkness, all have a place. And it is my responsibility to help them find balance. The shadow moved, tendrils brushing lightly against his thread. We will continue together. We will help you weave, not out of fear, but understanding. Dorian smiled beneath the silver moon. Then let us weave. The valley slept peacefully, the stars twinkling above, and the wind carried whispers of harmony across the heavens. The loom pulsed with life, golden, silver, and shadow intertwined, a living tapestry stronger than any darkness, more vibrant than any fear. Above, Celian's crown dimmed in quiet respect. A mortal has transformed the loom. A new era begins, a time of unity, vigilance, and hope. The threads endure. And so, beneath the endless sky, Dorian, the moon weaver, and even the primordial shadow wove together, guardians of dreams and reality alike. A new dawn had risen, not in light or shadow alone, but in the harmony of both. The loom thrummed softly, and the world, mortal and celestial alike, dreamed on in perfect, delicate balance.